From the Lower Colorado River Authority, this is Wavelength. Wavelength is produced to inform you, the employees of LCRA, on those issues and events that affect all of us. It's our way to ensure that all of us at LCRA are on the same wavelength.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Wavelength. Our top story this month, the water rights dispute between LCRA and the City of Austin is finally settled. Bell County District Judge James Clausen signed the settlement order on April 20th, resolving the dispute which has been going on for more than 2 decades.
Now that the water settlement is final, the judge has entered his final order. We can get on with our development, our management plan. We're obligated to provide that end result to the Water Commission by the end of this year, but allow us to get on with our conservation, our non-point source efforts, our water sale contracts, and all those things we've been trying to wrestle with for the last 10 years. We can finally provide the board a tally of how much water is actually committed versus that amount of water that's been appropriated to us by the state. That's a question that's been asked for years. We can finally get on with that business.
West says the plan has received broad support from city, county, and state officials. It restores LCRA's water rights to roughly 1.5 million acre-feet and also allows Austin to build water treatment plant number 4 near Lake Travis.
Community activities like scouting, elderly care, and even LCRA's River Rats depend on volunteers for successful programs. Well, 19 LCRA employees were recently recognized for their community volunteer work at a luncheon sponsored by the Austin in Action and the Volunteer Center.
Mostly it's with Boy Scout Troop 100. I help them with weekend campouts once a month. I've organized space exploration for Scoutorama May 23rd. We're going to do a river cleanup May 23rd, the same day. Half of us are going, so we'll be both active with Scoutorama and with Lake Travis. Our next camp out on May 7th is the Buchanan Dam river cleanup, and we'll be there too, camping out and cleaning up the river.
The employees were nominated by co-workers and will receive certificates for volunteer service at a reception in the general office cafeteria May 7th at 2:30. All employees are invited to attend.
This was the steel shop 1 year ago. The sights and sounds of metal being shaped echoed throughout the building. But soon, a different sound will fill this old building. The sound of people aerobicizing, playing basketball, volleyball, and a variety of other sports. The 5,200 square foot building is being converted into a multi-purpose gymnasium, which will provide a variety of services for all LCRA employees.
We hope to have a real attractive fitness center as well as a multi-purpose area for employee meetings, maybe training sessions, whether it be in safety or from our human resources department, or just employee group meetings. Where we don't have that area right now, I think that it's going to bring a lot of the employees closer together, and this is one of our main goals.
Most of the work is being handled internally. Crews from the carpenter shop and transmission construction are busy framing walls and hanging the ceiling, all in anticipation of a completion date of June 30th. Project coordinator Cindy Petrus says once the Austin facility is finished, they will look into the feasibility of similar projects at other LCRA locations.
That has been a concern of ours. You know, of course, management has questioned that, asked that question also, and we're going to take a survey of all the other work locations and find out what their needs are. Obviously, here in Austin, it's all desk people, you know, sitting behind a desk all day, and we have to take all that into consideration in evaluating what type of health facility will be at each work location.
Petrus says LCRA is trying to provide health facilities for employees because they feel like a healthier employee is a better employee.
Along the banks of the Colorado, thousands of years before settlers moved west, several tribes of nomadic Indians were drawn by the same scenic beauty and abundant wildlife that we enjoy today. Much of what we have learned of these ancient people has been from recent discoveries.
Kind of a unique experience to come down on something like this and realize you're the first person that's seen it in 2,000 years.
This dig site near Kingsland is providing archaeologist Woody Wooldridge with an increasingly rare look into the past. And although they have found thousands of artifacts, Wooldridge says many of the best ones may be lost forever due to vandals that have raided the area for the past 30 years. In a series of excavations, workers are carefully digging and sifting through the dirt for artifacts and clues.
There's about 500 years difference between these two. This is a little higher than this one. It's 500 years in just this span of time. And about 1,500 years between this tool and this tool. So we have quite a bit of time compressed in a very small area.
Several hearths used for cooking have been found, and various early tools have been collected, marked, and sent to the University of Texas for further tests and study.
The Highland Lakes have covered most of the village sites. The sites we get are the small activity sites like processing sites, little hunting camps, individual families. We don't get large base camps like this where the whole tribe or the whole band gets together seasonally, celebrates, exchange mates, trade, difference in ideas, just getting together with grandparents, uncles, aunts, that kind of deal. It was a cohesion of the total band that has, gone off to go their separate ways, but at least once a year they all come back together and celebrate, and this is a place they did it in.
This is just one of many sites being explored under an extensive plan to research all LCRA lands. And as Woody reminds us, you only get one chance at preserving these historic locations.
Yes, they will build no more Indian sites. This is truly a non-renewable resource.
This month on Wavelength, we'd like to introduce a new segment on safety. This time, I'd like to talk with you on electrical safety. We've noticed during recent safety inspections that more and more people are using surge protectors to protect their computers and other electrical devices against electrical surges, which could damage the equipment. The safety department encourages the use of this type equipment, but the problem is knowing which kind to use. This is a type we find most often being used throughout LCRA. The problem with it is that because it has a flexible wiring, it presents a tripping hazard, a fire hazard, and does not meet National Electric Code for permanent wiring. On the other hand, this one, because it plugs directly into an outlet, reduces your fire hazard, eliminates your tripping hazard, and meets all National Electric Codes for permanent wiring. If you need surge protection for any of your equipment, the safety department recommends you use this type. That's our safety tip for this month. I'm Senior Safety Specialist Lloyd Nutt.
Xeriscape, from the Latin xeros, meaning dry. It is a creative form of landscaping which uses much less water than conventional methods. During the summer months in this area, approximately 50% of the water used is for landscapes. Xeriscape is based on 7 principles designed to save water and money. First, start with a good design. Improve the soil by adding organic material. Limit lawn areas. Use mulches to hold in moisture and discourage weed growth. Choose low water use plants. Water efficiently, and finally practice good maintenance. LCRA's Water Efficiency Department installed this xeriscape demonstration garden at Buchanan Dam last October. Now work has begun on this xeriscape project at the Shapiro Building on Lake Austin Boulevard. John Gleason won a design contest held by LCRA.
Yeah, I heard through the grapevine that the LCRA was having a xeriscape competition, so I picked up the base map and all the materials and took a couple months to put together a design and submitted it, and was very lucky to be the winner. And being a professional landscape architect and very interested in xeriscape and native plants, I wanted to, I guess, exhibit my interests and my talents, and was lucky enough to win.
Dedication ceremonies will be held in May for a new xeriscape demonstration garden in Weimar. LCRA is also working with other communities in our district to help them with their own xeriscape projects. If you would like more information on Xeriscape, contact the Water Efficiency Department at 473-3366.
The River Rats campaign has been one of the most successful projects at LCRA. Miles of shoreline have been cleaned and tons of ugly trash collected. And to help promote the most recent River Rat campaign at Lake Travis, students from Lake Travis Middle School held a poster contest. About 90 kids participated in the contest, and winners received certificates for their efforts. The Outstanding Poster Award went to 8th grader Chelsea Thompson for this poster.
Well, I got first prize for doing my poster, and I'm not too sure. I'm just really happy.
Okay. How much work did you put into this? How long did that take?
It took me about 4 days to do it, and it took me about just a couple hours to get the format out, and it took a long time to do the letters to get them all equal and everything, but it took about 4 days.
The posters were placed in the windows of area businesses to advertise the cleanup date.
This month on Straight from the Top, Pat Freeze spends some time with General Manager Dave Freeman.
First question is, we've been in the newspaper quite a bit lately, and I was wondering if maybe you could comment on some of those issues that have surfaced, primarily the status of John Bagley.
Well, I don't think it's good practice to talk about personnel matters, publicly, and even though I'm speaking to our employees, this is fairly public, and put yourself in my situation. I'm just not at liberty to go into the details of it, and I guess all I'll say is that John Bagley served this agency well for quite a while, and I'm just not at liberty to go into what has happened that has caused the situation that exists, but I just think it'd be better for me not to say anything more than that.
Then do you foresee a time here where we're kind of leveling off in the newspapers and we're going to kind of settle down a little bit?
Well, I sure hope so. There's less here than meets the eye, if I might put it that way. We had to take a personnel action, and that's underway. But other than that, I'm surprised that we generated this much news, and because good news is not news, and a lot of really important good things are happening at LCRA. We're completing Unit 3 out at Fayette, which is a tremendous accomplishment, but you're not going to see a whole lot about that in the newspapers because that's good news. I mean, it's can you imagine the Austin Statesman with a big headline, LCRA has underrun? I mean, plant comes in on budget, under budget, and on time. You're just not going to see that headline because that's just not the way the newspapers operate. And even our momentous settlement of all the water rights, there was one article on it, but that's the kind of coverage that good news gets, and the fact that all of our computer systems are finally becoming more and more functional. Those kind of things.
Never hear about it.
No, and there, we could tick off. Everybody that's watching this knows the work they're doing, and almost without exception, people are performing very well and are very productive in this organization. If you want to see teamwork, just go down to Smithville and watch those folks repair those cars, and there's teamwork all over LCRA, and we're achieving more and more teamwork in the offices. But every once in a while, I guess if you're in the utility business, you're going to take a hit in the press, and I guess I got mine last week.
There you go. How about the reorganization of conservation and customer services? What's the status over there?
Yeah, I think it's important to remind everybody that 90-some-odd% of the jobs at LCRA have not been reorganized. We had a new division called Conservation, And after 2 years of going that way, we found that the overheads are just too high a percentage of the work. I mean, the total number of people in that division is, in that whole organization is less than some much smaller outfits on the power side, and it just didn't justify a separate executive director and all the overhead that goes with that. So we've taken an action just simply to take the conservation people and put them with natural resources, which is very compatible under Bill West, who used to run the SOC Center and knows quite a bit about load management and those things, and to gain some management efficiencies and make the conservation program more cost effective. The rates and customer services fit rather neatly into the new service organization that Bill Freeman heads, and Bill used to work at the PUC and has some personal experience and knowledge on those matters. So we're doing this not to just shuffle people around, but to continue to try to strive for greater efficiency. And the functions, the people doing the rate work and the load forecasting, their work is going to continue unchanged. They're just going to be part of the organization that is doing service work generally, and conservation will be with the natural resources people. I realize that you know, people perhaps don't appreciate this rearrangement, and yet we have to continue to be cost effective, and this is, I think, a relatively modest move in that direction. By and large, the company's organization, if you'll look at it today compared to what it was 3 years ago, I think you'll find that it's much cleaner, much more functional, and that we have a very much streamlined management structure, and I'm very much satisfied with it. You know, it's a mistake to say that there'll never be any additional reorganizations, but there's not another shoe about to be dropped or anything like that.
The last question is kind of a twofold question. One, it has to do with the budget process and morale. I mean, how do you perceive those two issues coming together right now?
We are moving out of an era where LCRA was selling electricity at 1, 1.5, 2 cents, and the prices were stable, and we had a monopoly, where, frankly, it really wasn't all that important whether we squeezed out the last measure of efficiency or not, and whether we had a few more employees, more or less. We're now in a competitive era, and if we're going to survive and grow, we've just got to keep our costs as low as we can get them for the service that we're providing. And if we're going to do the things in water that the board wants to do, which has not been done in the past, then that means doing these things in the most cost-effective way. And that's just where we are. We are moving out of a monopoly situation into a competitive situation. Our motto is competitive service. I'm very proud of the fact that we've got exceedingly productive people. I don't think that the folks that are working out there and that are just doing a great job need to have any fear. I hope we can change that fear to pride in the fact that we're not just on automatic pilot, that people are not kept on here just because they're here, that everybody that's here is highly productive. I think that's where we are. And the budget process is designed to make our case to a board of directors that's got a duty in Central Texas in 1988 to be sure that this outfit is frugal. And I know it's really an aggravation in a sense, and sometimes a frustration. But please, everyone, just recognize how good a job you are doing, and have the confidence in yourself that is warranted. And let's not let the situation inject fear just because it is new. We won the battle of the budget last year, and we're going to win it again this year. What we're doing is getting our case up to prove to the board that what we're presenting to them are dollars that are really needed and not fat and not duplication and not things that we just want to do that don't need to do. And that's a tough process. I think that any business that's competitive has to go through that process. It is new, and I sympathize with the people that are having to go through it. But if we didn't go through it, frankly, we'd get clobbered when we went to the board, and then we wouldn't have any defense. And that's what it's all about. But everybody out there knows that they're doing a good job. And if you are, and I think you are, and we can make our case to the board, we're going to get approval just like we did last year. But it isn't automatic anymore, and we've got to go through a process where we know and can say with a straight face that this is all we really need.
That's all on my end. Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you for your questions.
There are lots of small towns all over central Texas, and we've profiled a few of them for you right here on Wavelength. Well, this month we'd like to introduce you to Boerne, Texas, a small town of about 5,000 located just outside of San Antonio. We were there recently to produce an economic development program and thought we'd share it with you. The Germans first came to Boerne in the mid-1800s. It was mainly a farm settlement back then, but around the turn of the century, the population started to grow as people found out about the charm and beauty of the city. Today it's known as the Key to the Hills and prides itself on being a progressive community with a unique German atmosphere.
Yeah, this is the children's room.
Okay. A visit to the historic Coleman King House is a must if you're in Boerne. The home is filled with unique artifacts, including an 1890s German wardrobe and a bedroom suit.
Well, this bed was found in a barn in Kendall County and restored by the society. It was in poor condition, but it is an heirloom type bed that was brought over from Europe and saved because it was so special. So it belongs in a master bedroom in this house.
And there are other reminders of days gone by. Here at the Boerne Agriculture Heritage Center, you can get a good idea of what life on the farm was like 100 years ago. They've got corn shuckers, thrashers, seed drills, and even a fire pumper that dates back to the turn of the century.
Well, this is the original pumper wagon from the Boerne Volunteer Fire Department that was put in service about 1908. This is the ladder wagon and hose wagon that was part of it. You see about a 50-gallon water tank on the back of the wagon. That's that. It was necessary, of course, to find a watering trough along the street because 50 gallons wasn't much. These were originally rigged to be towed by horses, but Boerne was so small it was easier to tow them by hand, get them to the fire and not worry about the horses. Of course, in most cases, it was psychological. Everything burned by the time it got there.
So these really didn't do a whole lot of good. Downtown Boerne is filled with other relics of the past. Since the 1800s, the Kendall Inn has been a temporary home for tired travelers. And the old county courthouse, which was completed in 1870, is still around and home for Judge Garland Perry. The judge knows just about everything there is to know about Boerne, and he says embedded deep within the city's past is a bright future.
Oh, I would say an organized city that is well planned and it keeps up with the traditional things and that it is progressive and just the finest place in the world in which to live. And I think right now that it is.
Artists Scott and Robin Miles moved their pottery business to Boerne several years ago. They're part of a growing number of people who've chosen to mold their future here.
Lately, since we've been living here, we've done a lot of pots that are fashioned after fossils that we found around on the grounds, and trees, and a lot of things from nature. You know, I used to do almost everything really abstract, and since we've been out here, I've started focusing more on what's around me.
And there's also, we built the house here in the shop in California or New York or places like that. I don't think a lot of people could do that.
Well, we couldn't end our visit to Bernie without telling you about one of the more eccentric people here. She's 64-year-old Christine Ellis. And although she looks more like she belongs in a Mercedes-Benz, she's known in these parts as the Queen of Bicycling.
She's hell on wheels, telling everyone how good it feels. Might be the she-wolf knocking on my door. She wants to roll the rug up and get down on the floor. She said, let's ride.
Do you get some strange looks from people around town?
In the beginning, but they accept me now. They understand, I think.
Do you see a lot more on a bicycle?
Oh, indeed, indeed. And early in the morning or at sunset time. And you get to meet people. You can stop along the way. You don't have to park the car.
You probably never got a parking ticket.
Never, never, never.
Because of active community leaders like Christine Ellis, biking has become big business in Bernie. This year, they were one of only a few Texas cities picked to host the trial races for the world's Olympic hopefuls. And the best way to describe this race is to let the action speak for itself.